Chuki got the sauce, bitch.
Alright, this is the last early bird crit of the season. This was actually the day after the Cal Aggie crit, my last video. And I decided out of turn 1, I was going to put in an attack. And I really thought that I was just going to get chased right back and then my teammate was going to be able to counterattack. But after being solo for a couple of laps, actually 2 strong riders bridged up to me, guy from Stanford and then also Giovanni. And I've ridden with Giovanni before. I know he's strong, especially in a breakaway, so we just committed to it. And that was about how the race went. And because there's really not much else that happens until the end of this race, I'll answer a couple of questions I've gotten from a couple of fans of the channel. Alright, so Craig from Atlanta says, I got into cycling late last year. My manager cycled 16,000 miles in 2018 and convinced me to start commuting to work. So I got a hybrid bike and I have been cycling for 4 months and really enjoy it and would love to move towards group rides and racing Cat 5 crits. I have no endurance background, but I do competitive powerlifting. Awesome. I currently weigh 285 pounds, but I am making my way down to 210 to 220. That's pretty heavy, I'm not gonna lie. But I don't think it's a problem, and here's why. If you can focus on your pack riding skills, staying efficient, and positioning yourself for the sprint, you're gonna be like this total Criterium badass. Heavy riders, they tend to get tired in crits, not because there's hills or anything like that, but it's like all the accelerations that will wear you down. So out of every corner, following attacks, closing down gaps, that sort of thing. So that's why it's especially important for bigger guys like you to train efficiency and learn how to carry your momentum through corners and avoid having to put in big accelerations. Probably start with like flat 4-corner crits, like this race that I'm doing right here. It's a good place. It takes all of the other factors out of it. You don't have to worry about, technical corners. You don't have to worry about hills, narrow roads, anything like that. You can just focus on racecraft. And that's the low-hanging fruit for a guy like you. So start there, and I'd say continue working on losing weight and, like I said, building the aerobic motor. You're gonna be a force in the 5s, I guarantee it. So Craig follows up with another question about training. He says, I want to get better, fitter, and leaner in order to become more competitive one day, so I was looking into getting a smart trainer to do some more structured workouts via Trainer Road or something similar. I no longer want to just ride around town with no real focus. So the fact that you're even talking about a structured training plan tells me that you've got the discipline to make that happen. I made a video about building a training plan, and that'll probably help you get your feet wet with just the whole process, but I would say follow your instinct and download the podcast over at Trainer Road. Listen to those guys. I've been listening to those guys for years, and maybe get their app. Just take a look at what they have to offer because they have a wealth of knowledge on this subject. And next question is, do you think that this would be the best way for me to get as fit as possible by building up my base fitness in 2019, mostly indoors? I have about 10 hours a week I can ride, not including commutes. That's a lot of time because first of all, I wouldn't discount commute miles. My commute to work makes up over half my training time, and that's the time where about 8 hours a week I get to focus on endurance training zones 2 and 3. In fact, it forces me to focus on endurance training zones 2 and 3. So over 10 hours per week, especially on a trainer, is more than enough. Training hours are different than out on the road miles because they're like laser focused on a very specific goal. And like I said earlier, that goal for you, a guy with your background, wouldn't be anything anaerobic. I would just be focused almost entirely on building aerobic endurance and just making sure that you're going to be able to be in the right position to uncork your monster sprint at the end of a Criterium. So Craig's last question is, do you have any other advice for someone just starting out in cycling? Yeah, I have a lot, but I'll just keep it short. I'd say be patient. Changes are small, but they're cumulative, and they might go unnoticed. Focus on the process, stick with a training plan, and don't let bad results or the latest greatest equipment muddy your long-term goals. And that's the reason I didn't really elaborate on your equipment question, is because that's really not that important at this point. Just get a bike that fits you, stick with the training plan, and worry about equipment later, because really it's not that important. As long as it fits you right, that's the most important thing. All right, next up, and in reference to my last video at the Cal Aggie Criterium, Velomatic asks, your team could have helped you a lot more in that situation. Not much reason not to stay organized in the last 5 laps of a local race, especially coming into 1 to go when he took that flyer. Why burn matches on something that hasn't worked all race, knowing your sprinter is surfing wheels by himself? All right, so that's a good question, because yeah, like me personally, I would have preferred a 5-man lead out in the last lap. That would have helped me out a great deal. But you know, like I said in the video, my team isn't just racing for me, and we put ourselves in potential race winning positions all the time. Breakaways, chase groups, that sort of thing. So an attack in the last lap, especially when I'm in good position as the sprinter, that's really smart, because you know, worst case, it forces others to chase, which increases the speed and secures my position. Best case is people don't chase and it stays away. And attacking when it hasn't worked all race is like just the reason you need to try one more time, because everyone's probably thinking, hey, these attacks have been going all race, they haven't been working, so I'm not going to chase this one. And an attack just like that 2 years ago got away, so and got away for the win. So it's not that uncommon for a late race attack like that to be successful in its own right. And pro tip, if you're not a field sprinter and it's looking very likely that it's coming down to a field sprint, you're much better off going for a late race attack, kind of putting it all out on the line and seeing what happens, because you just might surprise yourself. But in this case, my teammate's late race attack was chased, and it kept me in good position towards the front of the group. All right, so here we are at the end of the race. This is the last lap, and we're playing a little cat and mouse. These two guys have forced me to the front, and you can see I'm looking around. This is actually kind of funny. I wasn't even having to look behind me, actually. I was just looking at these really long shadows, these late afternoon shadows, so I could see if anybody was trying something sneaky to wind it up and come past me for a late race attack. And actually Giovanni does. So fortunately I was paying attention to it and I was able to respond really quickly. But it was still pretty hard to close this down, and I have no intention of like counterattacking at this point. If that was my style, if I had like a good two minute effort in my legs, then that's what I would have done right at about this moment. But I just want to keep it together for a sprint. I think from 200 meters to go, I feel pretty good about my chances.
Chuki got the sauce, bitch.
So I had this second round of white dots on the ground as a spot picked out where I wanted to open up my sprint. I thought it was a good distance. I feel like it was a distance I could hold pretty high power until the finish. And just like in the last early bird video that I posted, I let this little mini gap open up, and then I jump on it really hard, and I try to carry as much speed as I can past the front guy. And it catches them by surprise. It's much harder for them to get on your wheel. So that's it for today, guys. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up if you like this new Q&A format. If you don't, click the thumbs down. And as always, if you like this content, go ahead and subscribe, and see you guys at the next one. Later.